Are we ready? Okay, welcome to our festival training for the All Saints exhibit 2023, which is the 14 Stations of the Eucharist. If people come in and ask the question, where did this idea come from? It came from the sisters, and their name is on the back. I have written by Father Jonathan Meyer, inspired by the Poor Clares of Perpetual Adoration in Hanceville, Alabama. And then all the artwork in here is from the public domain, which means it's allowed to be copied without rights or acknowledgments. In fact, a lot of the artwork in here, if you do the research on it, it's actually like unknown artists is really what it is. But it's just, so everyone who walks in, the person greeting people will hand everybody a booklet. And that's also going to be a way for us to keep attendance. In years past, we've done like a little book, and my dad has often go through and ran data on it. But the more I think about it this year, I think we should we'll know if we made it through 500 booklets. And we'll be like, oh, there's 500 people. Because there's 500 booklets in a box. So every time we get through a box, we'll be like, oh, there's 500. So like I said, we printed up 2,000 of these. So if we make it through 2,000, it's like, bring it on. And I'll print up more for the St. Paul. We won't make it through 2,000 here. I think our numbers, we normally are around 1,500 to 2,000 throughout the whole festival series, right? So, but who knows? Maybe this is the year. This is the revival year. So I do want everybody to walk away with this. And then, so if that kind of just gives it as an intro, there are 14 displays, and each display is artwork that helps you enter deeper into the mystery and hopefully leads you closer to the Eucharist. So that's really kind of the whole point of this year's exhibit. So we'll just go ahead and pass these out, and you can hopefully try not to be too looking ahead, because when we go through the artwork and the exhibit itself, I would like to explain some of the reasons why the art was chosen for the exhibit maybe, and maybe some little things that you could point out that might not be so obvious just to everybody who's looking at it. Or I want you to ask me questions about, well, why is that there? Or what does that mean? That will then help us all know the answers to those questions. Clearly, hopefully you'll take the time to read this, and we'll email this out to all of our guides so that they can read through this prior to, but you can also read it while you're waiting. I mean, you know what I mean? It's not like there's thousands of people rushing in all at once. And I realize that it is a lot of writing, but it's a lot of explanation because it's really so awesome. So we'll head on in this way. So come on in to 2023. Come on in. So Marilyn, that'd be good for you to like go that way and then kind of turn back just a little bit. Perfect.
You brought back the Saints, John.
I did.
All right, cool.
And the air conditioning, thanks be to God, right? So on your left and your right as you walk in, these are the images that are processed down Meridian Street in Indianapolis for the Eucharistic Revival. A year ago, we had the longest and first ever downtown Corpus Christi procession in the Archdiocese of Indianapolis, and these were the images that led the way. And so we're very thankful to be able to have them on display at our exhibit this year. So when you greet people coming down the hallway here, of course you'll have a booklet with you, and there's a whole box of them here. You can just kind of greet people and say, hey, welcome to our Eucharist exhibit. Our exhibit is a little different this year than the fact that you have a self-guided booklet that can take you through the exhibit. And you can just explain, like you might be very, very familiar with the Stations of the Cross. And oh, look, we have right here a Stations of the Cross from St. John the Baptist Church. And I have a collection of Stations of the Cross booklets down here. So you might be familiar with the Stations of the Cross, and often there is a small booklet. So what you're going to experience in this year's exhibit is the 14 stations of the Eucharist. So it's not the 14 stations that lead us to Jesus' passion and entombment, but 14 stations, think of like a train station along the way. That's actually just whenever people ask me about the stations of the cross, I always use the word train station. Imagine you're on a journey and you just keep stopping at different train stations, but you're eventually going to get to your ultimate destination. So the stations of the Eucharist are 14 stops along the way in the biblical journey to help us understand Jesus' true presence in the Eucharist. So you'll see actually there's a short little explanation of that here on the front before we get to the first station. And then if you look how the stations are organized, they're organized just like the stations of the cross. So if I look at any of these little booklets, everyone's way of the cross. This is the version that I used at St. William's Catholic Church. And that is not the version that I used. This is the version that we used. So normally you have the third station, Jesus falls under the cross. We adore you, O Christ, and we praise you because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world. There's a biblical reflection, and then there's a prayer. And so this is set up the same way. So if we were going to do this as a group, I would say the first station, the sacrifice of Abel. And then I would say, O sacrament most holy, O sacrament divine.
All praise and all thanksgiving be ever known and thine.
And then I would say the sacrifice of the lamb. So that the tagline there, just for you, this is like going a little bit deep. That is really, if I take the entire, as the author, whatever you want to call me, that is really like the emphasis of what you're going to see then down below. Okay? Right? Hey, do you want to go see a lamb? So, welcome to the stations of the Eucharist. So what we're going to do, as we've done before, we're going to all go in. So go in past the first station, and then I'll kind of explain once we're all in the room. Okay? There's Pascal. And then this is the second station here.
Father, do we need a sign on there to do not take these booklets, or?
I think it'll be those are part of the display.
Right.
Yeah. No, yeah, you're not supposed to take the stations of the cross booklets. Correct. And then this would be the third station here with Melchizedek. So everyone should be able to fit in here to see the first three stations. Okay, so first station is behind you, which is the sacrifice of Abel. So in the biblical passages, and the first sacrifice that a man ever offers to God is Abel. And he offers a lamb. And oftentimes, this is my view of things, or my experience, is that I think we automatically shift from, we look at it more as a competition between brothers. Abel's sacrifice is offered, Cain's is not. Cain offered, and then the civil rivalry, which leads to Cain killing Abel. I think we quickly shift to that, and we don't pause on the fact of, why was the sacrifice of Abel offered but not Cain's? Well, because the sacrifice of the lamb is ultimately what is going to be the prototype of every sacrifice throughout the entire Old Testament and the New, because Jesus is the Paschal Lamb. And so it's very important that the first sacrifice that it's accepted by God is a lamb, because what is the last sacrifice of the Old Testament, which brings us into the New Testament? It's Jesus on the cross. So that Jesus is the new Passover lamb that is offered for our salvation. Shifting to the second station, the sacrifice of Abraham. I have over here the emphasis on, and this goes through and gives you almost 30 different ways that Isaac and his son's sacrifice is linked to Jesus' carrying of the cross and dying on Calvary. But remember, God doesn't want human sacrifice. So remember, Isaac is not killed. This stained glass window is from St. Martin's. This stained glass window is from St. Lawrence. And in these stained glass windows, you see that God doesn't want human sacrifice, but that God himself provides a lamb, which is actually, that's the direct quote of Isaac to his son. And so you see the lamb here, you see the lamb here, and then you see the lamb here, and the lamb is caught in a thicket. Why is the lamb caught in a thicket? Because what is that lamb a prefigurement of? But Jesus caught in a crown of thorns, who's offered for our salvation. So once again, it's a lamb, which then leads to the third image. And for those of you who have noticed, like Father Mayen and I, for the most part, have always shifted, we're shifted, well, Father Hollowell as well, to praying Eucharistic prayer number 1. And in Eucharistic prayer number 1, it talks about the sacrifice of Abel, the sacrifice of Abraham, and the sacrifice of Melchizedek. So this stained glass window is once again from St. Lawrence. That one is from St. Martin's. And then we have here in statuary, Melchizedek offering a sacrifice of what? Bread and wine. Key to this is the fact that Melchizedek is not a Leviticus priest. He's not a Levite. For those of you who are doing Bible in a year, who are the only people that can offer sacrifice? Levitical priests. But Melchizedek isn't a Levitical priest, but his sacrifice is offered and it's accepted by God. Is Jesus a Levite? Interesting. So what order or what line of priesthood is Jesus going to be in? The order of Melchizedek. What sacrifice did Melchizedek offer? A sacrifice of bread and wine. So it's really powerful when you begin to look at all these prefigurements lead us ultimately to that reality. Okay? Do these kind of all help make sense? Good. Okay, now turn around and we're going to head this way. Preston, do not be scared when you turn around.
So Padre Meyer, is that in the write-ups, or do we have to?
That's all in there. Watch out for that. Okay. Okay. So, we're very excited about all of this here. Preston, if you want to, yeah, there we go.
This is going to get your 2,000 people right here.
Yeah, it is. Okay, so I just need to say that this exhibit, this is why I love this exhibit, my people. The next few things are just going to... So this, by the way, was from St. Mary's and Aurora's Vacation Bible School this year. I put blood on the doorpost, but they made so I was able to use that, and Linda and Buck came and picked it up. And just by looking at this, what is this? This is the first Passover, right? So what do we have here? We have unleavened bread, we got wine, and we have blood on the doorpost, right? And it looks kind of like it's Egypt, right? It's perfect, great. What do we have here? This is hyssop. This is, if you ever wondered what does hyssop look like, well look, here's some hyssop. This is actually exactly what it looks like. Oh, and there's a bowl of blood. And if you want to actually learn all about hyssop, this actually makes the connection between the hyssop that they were required to apply the blood with to their doorposts and the hyssop that takes the wine to Jesus' lips on Calvary. It's not by chance that these biblical authors are making these very clear decisions. It's also, and I'm dead serious, if people want to pick that, like, hyssop has like a beautiful smell to it, like kind of like a spicy smell, a little bit. And I actually just, I applied that blood with the hyssop, just so you all know. So here's the beautiful thing, though, and this is the one-liner right here. Maybe it's the 2 sentences. I'm not sure exactly, but you know me. If you were an Israelite and there was not blood on your doorposts, what happened to you? The angel of death came and what? And there was death, right? So what happens to Christian believers? If the blood of the Lamb is not on your lips, right? This is where Jesus says, and we're going to be in the synagogue in Capernaum in just a little bit, where he says, unless you eat the flesh of the Son of Man and drink his blood, you do not have life within you. He who eats my flesh and drinks my blood has eternal life, and I will raise him up on the last day. So Jesus, just as the Israelites were required to eat the lamb and apply the blood, we do the same, okay? So, fifth station. I would actually say if I had to vote, it's probably the weakest of the stations. I had like a bigger vision for it, but it didn't really go exactly as I wanted it to go. But we're okay with this here. So this is the manna that came down from heaven. So if you're wondering, you're like, Father, what is that? Well, that is actually breakfast cereal called it's French Toast Crunch. No, it's not Cinnamon Toast Crunch. It's French toast. And if you look at it, they look like little pieces of bread. It's really cute. Okay. So the manna come down from heaven, of course, is clearly a Eucharistic prefiguration. This is actually, and they can read this right here, what was the manna in the desert. This is from the book of Exodus and the book of Numbers. It says it was like coriander seed. Well, if you ever wonder what coriander seed looked like, this is coriander seed. This is what the manna looked like, and they would grind this into flour. Now, what was different about it, it says, if the explanations say, it was like coriander seed, but it was white. So, this is more of like a beige and a brown. So, I have a package of hosts here. So some people have made connections to the fact of the reason why in the ancient tradition of the church, the decision was made that the host would, if you think about it, if you're going to use flatbread, we could like take knives and cut it up, but the decision was made that the host would be round because of the coriander seed. That the white host is because of the coriander seeds, as a reminder of the manna that came down from heaven. So that's a little reflection there. If people want to go deeper than just the fact that God gave the Israelites food in the desert for 40 days from heaven. That was bread, right? Okay? So if we turn around, one of my favorite parts of the whole entire exhibit is right here. I just love it. So this is, and they're over there, they're like, we can't see it. Debbie, come on over. So this is the Ark of the Covenant, and so just a little quick, this is not part of this Sisters exhibit. They do not have the Ark of the Covenant in theirs. But for me, the Ark of the Covenant is just so highly Eucharistic. Because the Jewish people clearly, even when you just think about the temple worship, they had a place to go, there was ritual, there was cultic sacrifice. There were all of these things which are really just a continuation of the way that we understand our Catholic faith. So it's one of the reasons why even here at All Saints Parish, I insist that there should always be an angel on each side of the tabernacle. Because that's how it was, like the mercy seat in the Ark of the Covenant. So there was a place where people could go, there was a place where God dwelt, and that is our experience of Jesus in the Most Blessed Sacrament when we come to our parish churches. There is a biblical passage over here about what was in the Ark of the Covenant. Clearly there were different time periods. Originally it was just the Ten Commandments. Eventually manna from heaven in a jar was put in there. And then ultimately the staff of Aaron, the priest that's right, that blossomed with lilies like St. Joseph's staff did as well. So any questions here? So if anybody wants to dress up like Indiana Jones or anything, and dun 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 dun, they can lift it up. You know what I'm saying? No.
How did you come up with this?
It's a whole new world that I've entered into.
Outstanding.
Isn't it outstanding? I'm so excited.
The only thing that bothers me in everything you said is, I'm up here in cloud 9 just listening to you, and it sounds like you want people to come through and absorb everything by reading it. How you explain it is it's just wonderful.
Well, I would just like to say,
oh my gosh,
the reading of it is really, really powerful. If people take the time to read, but I realize that it's a lot to read. But what I'm saying is here in the reading. But
you can have a little box you can press at each with your voice.
So can I tell you that actually Father Mayen and I talked about that, anyways, we never got there. So
Did you borrow the Ark?
I have that relation with that statue company.
Yeah.
I bought these, and I bought them unpainted, and I spray painted them. And then this was a tub from Bright Lights. Like when people donated their Christmas decorations, somebody actually, and then so I spray painted that as well.
Very creative.
Yes.
I'm crazy. Now, this is really cool because we love our Blessed Mother. When you walk into the next hall, this is from Patrick Willey, Father Patrick Willey, my good friend. He read through these, and he said the only thing that he would add would be that Mary is the new Ark of the Covenant. And so I had bought this statue of our Blessed Mother. So it's really kind of neat how it's placed in the fact of you go from seeing the Ark of the Covenant to encountering Mary, who is the new Ark of the Covenant. And then if we look at the next station, the 7th station is Bethlehem. So
Is that what in the Marian exhibit?
a small one was. That,
There was definitely, she was pregnant.
yeah. It was, sorry, that statue, but it was maybe like that tall. Yeah. Okay, so this, like previous years, is Denise in here?
Yeah, I'm coming up.
Okay. No, you're fine. As in previous years, this is going to be kind of like a round the room, out that way, just kind of so you know how the flow goes. The signs will guide you. So the 7th station is Bethlehem, House of Bread. Jesus was born in a town called House of Bread. He's ultimately going to call himself, I am the bread of life. So this is much more profound than most people are ever going to comprehend. But I spoke to a parishioner who I know who's like really good at baking. And I just said, hey, would you be interested in making me a nativity scene out of bread? And so she made this entire nativity scene by hand for this exhibit. And this is all made out of salto. And she baked it all like just in her own kitchen. And so this is the bread of life salt dough nativity scene. And it's really, really unbelievable. I'm so excited about it. Yep. It's really, If you can actually see, like on some of them where you can just see like on Jesus's cloth, like it's just her fingers. Yeah, she made them all. So next, of course, is then, and this is where, like, so once again, you notice all these times we've had the reference to the Lamb. So when John the Baptist is standing at the River Jordan, he says, behold the Lamb of God. Like, there's no way that as a faithful Jew that you can't, whoa. He's the Lamb of God, which means he's going to die. But no. We don't just kill lambs. We have to eat them. If you are a faithful Jew, you don't just kill lambs, you eat them. That's part of the sacrifice. It's part of how you enter into communion with God. And so this just really focuses on the fact that Jesus' cousin is the one who makes that really bold transition. He's born in the house of bread. He's a priest in the order of Melchizedek, and it begins to all make sense. The next two really talk about Jesus' power that he has. So this is the power to change water into wine. And right now, I just need to, like, this fountain is not what it will look like, but if the top is supposed to be clear and it's not clear, somehow red water got into it. But this is a different pump than this. So this will be clear. I really don't know why this is happening. So there's somewhere is a leak. But anyways, there's like 2 compartments downstairs, down within it. But it's just, I thought I had it. And, but anyways, you can tell it's awesome, right? Yeah. So, but once again, if Jesus can turn water into wine, why can't he turn wine into his blood? If Jesus can turn water into wine, why can't he change a sinner into a saint? If Jesus can turn a sinner into a saint, why he can turn water into wine? So this is about the changing of substance. This is the multiplication of substance. And if you want to come over and look at this is actually pretty neat. So there actually are 5 loaves and 2 real fish. And if you stand in the right angle, the basket will go from being empty to being full as they spin around. And it's just kind of a little play on there was none, and then there was food for 4,000 or 5,000. So I have two interesting aspects over here. There are two different stories about the feeding. Was it 4,000 or 5,000? Both are true. Matthew and Mark include two different miracles of the loaves and fishes, and then this just explains why there are two. One was to a Jewish crowd, one was to a Gentile and non-Jewish crowd, and kind of like some of those, for people that like to go deeper, okay? This, for those of you who have ever been to the Holy Land, this is the White Synagogue in Capernaum, where Jesus gave the Bread of Life discourse. So, if the room is quiet, which it might or might not be, if we listen real quietly, you'll hear the voice of Father Mike Schmitz, who is reading John chapter 6, which is what Jesus proclaimed at the synagogue in Capernaum. You can actually skip that part.
This is the bread which comes down from heaven, that a man may eat of it and not die. I am the living bread which came down from heaven. If anyone eats of this bread, he will live. And the bread which I shall give for the life of the world is my flesh. The Jews then disputed among themselves, saying, how can this man give us his flesh to eat? So Jesus said to them, truly,
So we get the idea.
What's the relationship to
The columns. So if you go to the Holy Land, he proclaimed this in the synagogue in Capernaum, and this would be what you would see there today. When you go to Capernaum, there is a synagogue that is built over the exact spot of the original synagogue, and it has big white columns in it. And you go there and proclaim John chapter 6, and it's very powerful. So, the next two are kind of cramped, so I'll explain them here as we kind of walk by. And I'm not trying to give disservice to station number 12, but it very much so may look like it, but it's not the intent. Station number 12 is kind of back here a little bit. Station number 12 is the institution of the Eucharist, which hopefully all of this is leading us to understand this. And what I have here is I have the Catechesis of the Good Shepherd, Last Supper, the work, which means the figurines and the diorama that the children use to understand that teaching. And then I also have just a beautiful image that hangs normally in my parish office of the Last Supper. And then the 13th station is actually an interactive station. If individuals actually want to sit down at tables, if you want to come this way, and you guys are going to stand here, so everybody you can sit, yeah, however you want to do that. You can actually sit and just kind of look at what would it be like to be on the road to Emmaus? Because what happened is there were two disciples who on the road encountered Jesus, and they encountered him in the breaking of the bread. So this actually pottery was made by a parishioner at St. Lawrence, Julie Moore. But anyways, so it has the broken bread, Jesus, and it is really kind of neat just to look him in eye to eye that close. Kind of powerful for some people to do that. So this is the 13th station, the road to Emmaus. Any questions there? Okay, we're going to go into the last room. The sign is above you as you enter in the 14th station, the wedding feast of the Lamb. It's beautiful. You could actually come in and have a seat if you would like. Okay, so the wedding feast of the Lamb, which is the last of the stations, speaks about the wedding how we are all invited to a wedding, and that wedding, of course, is to the church being espoused to Jesus. And you know that I like to emphasize this. We talk about this all the time. This is why we wear white at baptisms, at First Communion, at confirmation, at weddings. It's why priests wear white. So I decided for this part of the exhibit to, just really to drive home that point. So you see a stairway to heaven, and you see beautiful white garments that are all reminders of what we'll be wearing in the glories of heaven. And this room will have music playing in it. And right behind Preston right here is who do you want to invite to the wedding of the Lamb? So there are pieces of paper here, and there are pens. And people will be invited, as they have in times past, to write down names of individuals that they'd like to pray for, that we'll then put in our adoration chapel and then ultimately offer Mass for on the feast of Saint Monica. So these dresses and clothes, I'll decode them all for you. So this is my mother's wedding dress. So this is my granny's wedding dress from 1943. That's my mom's wedding dress from 1971. This is my mom's First Communion dress from 1954. This is my little sister's wedding dress from She is getting married. She is getting married at the age of, This is my sister's First Communion dress from 1993. And then that's actually my white tux. And this is my priest vestments. So this is a very beautiful room with beautiful garments from beautiful people. So, So that's the exhibit. What do y'all think?
Awesome.
Really good.
A witness to people who don't understand.
And a confirmation for those who do believe, and a deeper enrichment and encouragement and questions that you all have.
All the books. Should we I know you're using them to count how many people come through. What about children? Are we counting them? Do we give them all one? Or
I would just, anybody who wants, I would just say anybody who wants. Just like with the binder, like we try to have people write down how many people were in their party, or I would just say, whoever would like a book is welcome to take one. Other questions?
There was a sign here that was a quote from St. John Vianney.
Yeah.
Is there something there?
No, there's nothing. I originally had made some quotes about the Eucharist, and then I kind of changed the style of the signs, and then, I ended up not putting up a lot of quotes. I had a lot of Eucharistic quotes, but there's just a lot going on. So then I pulled back, but I decided to keep that one because of the name of our coffee shop.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, well, maybe this will, I don't know, who knows? Like, it's at least, I do love St. John Vianney. He's one of my faves. So, I decided to keep that in there. Other questions? Did you have some questions, Mr. Fruit Loops? He wants some of that waffles here, that French toast, whatever that is, French toast cereal. No questions?
Looks fabulous.
So, my thought, we really only need like one person in the entryway, I think. There isn't a huge intro. It's just like, here's your book. You've heard of the Stations of the Cross. Welcome to the Stations of the Eucharist. Enjoy your time. If we wanted to have two people in that first room, kind of one on the Abel, Melchizedek, Abraham side, and then one on the Passover, Ark of the Covenant side. That'd be 3 people. And then I really think you only need 1 person in this room here. So that'd be 4 people. And then if you wanted to have someone here to pass out cards and invite people to make a donation if they'd like to while they're leaving. And they'll go out this way. The Ladies' Sodality is going to be out in the entryway. Their Adoration Chapel is open for people to visit. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Is that right? 5 people. Someone said the sign-up genius has 10 slots. Is that correct? We clearly do not need 10 people in here. So it would also be great, I guess, if someone just wanted to stand outside and open the door and welcome people. Like, seriously. I think it'd be awesome if there's other people, particularly like World Youth Day kids. I don't know if we have, I can make some tomorrow or something, but to just go out and encourage people to come. Like, just go out and say, like, hey, did you hear this exhibit? Just want to let you know about it. Or even just, like, be an evangelizing presence at the festival. Just, my only job is to walk around and just, I don't know. Yeah,